Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, Data Driven Decisions. Today is day 4 of working on this HR project that is just a simple sales dashboard built off of sample data from Kaggle, human resources. Yesterday, um, we fixed the date problem where, we were working with stale data. Anytime you find data off the internet, it's probably stale data. But we use the technique to make it look always current. Let me share my screen. So here's the BigQuery code that we implemented yesterday. We created a circuit of now 2 tables, intermediate tables that has data transformation in them. The first transformation realm is just simple, simple initial column data transformations. So far, we've just found one where we found a date of birth that was in the future, and obviously that can't be possible. So we turned that into null. Today, we probably should go through every single dimension and make sure that every attribute value is right, is what we want. But the big thing we did yesterday was for every date column, we're adding a day difference to it. What is the difference between today and the latest date in the entire table? And we use this subquery to figure out what the latest date in the table is. Let me run this right now, and I'll show you. So we found that the max date was 2019-2/28, and that's 1,902 days in the past. So for every single date field, we're just adding this number to every date, so everything looks current. And you see that in this plot right here, where looking at hire count by hire month, the latest date is 2023 of September, whereas without the transformation, it was somewhere in 2018, 2019. So we're working at data that looks current. Today, I want to do something that is outside of this output table. I've said before that based on the schema of the table that you build, just the shape of it will allow different visuals to come into play. And the table that we have so far is just an information table. It's unique by people, and what we want to do is turn it into a transaction table. That would open up the window for a lot of nice visuals, such as like employee count by month, something we can't do right now with the current shape of the data, but with a transaction table, we will achieve that. And what do I mean by transaction table? So for every day between the person's hire date and the start date, or in the termination date, or the latest date, if they're still active, provide a row in the data, and have a new field called day or date, or work date, and that would make it a transaction table. So the table, instead of being unique just by people, it's going to be unique by person and by date. All right. So let's start working on that right now in this BigQuery. It's going to be built off of HR data Safana out, so it's going to be a new transaction table. And we're going to make this, we're going to switch around the Explore definition of Looker, where right now it's just an Explore built off of one dim table. We're going to bring this fact table into it and make this the primary table, and then left join in the person table. All right, so let's get started with this query. What would this query look like? How do I turn this into a transaction table? So let's find the ingredients that we need from the output table, which are, let's run it, employee ID, that's the primary key. We don't want to use name, even though we could, because it is unique by name. Let's use employee ID. And we want to find the hire date, date of hire. And let's just force a primary key here, even though this shouldn't do anything to the data. And this table, if I just do a select on all of them, it still should be right, but let's force the primary key, make it employee ID. I do that all the time. Just, primary keys, when granularities get extrapolated, that's always what causes problems in the output numbers of it being wrong. So always control the primary keys. For this, I'm forcing the primary key to be employee ID, even though I know it is already. Let's just still do it. Just good practice. This is what I always do. And one more. Case when date of termination is null, then current date, else date of termination. All right, that's the ingredients of what we need. Let's add a group by, order it by one. All right, so this should give us the ingredients we need to make this transaction table. So we're going to use date of hire and last date as the min and max dates for every person. All right, now let's build it out. This is going to be the initial input table. I need to find a date table. Sorry, I ran into a little bit of trouble in my prior video. The date table of which I was using from another project was in a place in another region, and I wasn't able to create a query that joined two tables from two different regions. So what I went ahead and did is I brought in a new date table into my own dev Danny folder with the same region of all the HR data that I'm working with. I went through that process. I wrote some code. I'll show you to you right now. So I needed to bring in a date table, and I had some standard code written. I didn't have to change anything at all. All this code right here, just to get myself a nice date table in this work environment. The date table just came from a CSV file. It's just a large table that goes from 1900 all the way far into the future to 22,110. I don't even know how to pronounce that, but it goes very far. So both min and max are really heavy. So it's going to have all the dates that we'll need. It's only 77,000 rows long. So it's just a nice full date table. You always want to have a nice date table. And just recycled code from an old project. I also put comments into this code. So starting at the top, I have just a front page section, showing what the project is, the program name, who the author is, and then the contents of the table. So far, we got 3 output tables built. We got a date table, we got an employee table, and we got a transaction table. And that's our data model so far. Beforehand, we only had this table, the employee table, but now we're creating a full data model off of this data. So where we left off, we were creating this transaction table. How do you do that? Well, it's pretty simple. This first query, it goes to the employee table and just finds the min and max date for which rows need to be created for them. And that is the date of hire all the way to the last date, which would either be the date of termination, or if they're a current employee, just the current date. And then I cross-join that with the dev table to say, for every row in this table, make a row in this table. So it really extrapolates the rows, and that's what I need. I need a row for every single date of which they've worked. Now I have to have this where statement saying where the date is between the date of hire and the last date, because I don't want dates outside of this date range for every employee. So when I run this, so looking at the first employee, their date of hire is 4/13/2021. So that's workday number one, and then it just increments by 1 day, and it has a workday flag telling you whether it's a weekday or not. I didn't really bring in holidays or anything. Maybe I can, just fake holidays. And if we, let's find a person who's terminated. So you see it goes all the way for this single employee. We're still on the first employee. And it will stop at 5/14 of 2024. 5/14, last date. So if we so let's turn this into a table. And, for this transaction table, we don't need to bring anything else in, simply because we're going to get everything from the employee table, and we'll, do that in Looker. So this transaction table just needs what it has right now. It could even have less. Doesn't need workday flag, but that's all we need for this transaction table. So let's turn it into a view and bring it into Looker. Just copy this code. This is the name I'm choosing to give it. And then at the end, do select all from order by 1, 2. Some one line, comment it out. That's just a work query. I don't like to delete them. I'll just save them, comment it out. Let's really look at the skeleton of this table. Show you really how it's built. All right, this will show the skeleton. So for the first employee, it's got 1,128 rows. And you see the min workday equals the date of hire, and the max workday equals the last date. And it does this, and that's the way for everybody. But you see everybody has a different row count because everybody's worked a different number of days. So that's cool. So all right, so we got this table finalized. We got two tables now built. We got a date table, and we got this transaction table. Let's run this all the way through. Oh, this needs that. I like to just run the whole program, make sure it runs before I leave it alone. So far, 38 seconds. See how everything's a view? All right, it's over. All right, let's bring these two tables into Looker. All right, so now we're in the Looker project. So far, we only have one view created, the initial view. Let's bring in the date table. Just create view from table. And find it in Dev Danny. Let's just bring both of them in at the same time. All right, there they are. So let's look at the date table LookML. Once again, let's get rid of this code. Let's get rid of the project name. And let's see how everything comes out. We got date. It looks like we don't need these. All right, let's leave this alone for now. Save changes. And what we have to do is establish primary keys. That's something I haven't done yet. Let's do that right now. Let's go into HR Safana out. This one is employee ID. All you got to do is a primary key equals yes. Now that we're building a data model, we have to establish primary keys. For the transaction table, it's a 2-level, so we'll make our own field called primary key. Hidden equals yes. Primary key equals yes. Type equals string. SQL equals employee ID. Concat work date. Work date. All right, that's the primary key of that table. The date table. This one would work. There's many primary keys. All right, let's look over this transaction LookML. All right. Save, validate. So now we got 3 tables. We got to now go to the explore definition and flip around this data model. So let me go into a known looker project just to grab some code. This is all I need. Let's grab a better one. All right. All right, going over here, this is the fact table, and then let's join in HR data Safana out. It's going to be a left outer join, many to one on employee ID. So those are the 3 parameters you need. And then now let's do date table. And let's call it work date. Add the from parameter. We're going to join the date table probably many times. Give it that work date, left outer, many to one on work date and on work date dot date. All right. No errors. Deploy to production. All right, let's check out what our Explorer looks like now. It got deleted because we gave it a new name. So these are probably broken. Yep, no worries. We can recreate them very easily. But now we have a nice data model going on. So I can do work date. Let's do month. Let's just do day and do row count. Change that to 5,000. And what do you got? You got the employee count now by day over time. That's awesome. That's something we couldn't build with the initial table we had, but turning it into a transaction table, now we can clearly see the employee count by day. That's a beautiful plot. Let's add it. Save to an existing dashboard, my folder, HR data. All right. So if we go here, we got that, but these are broken. Let's fix those just by simply recreating them. Go to HR data Savannah out, terminated flag and row count with a pie chart. Boom. Save to existing dashboard. Give this a new name. And do hire count by hire month. Add that. All right, great. Now we're back to where we once were with the new dashboard, new data model. So, now it's time to start dashboarding. I really think we got a solid data model, one that we're probably not going to change. We got a transaction table that will allow us to do some pretty nice time series plots, such as the one you see on the right here, which is let's edit it, give it a title. All right, let's save. All right, let's add some better look-ML measures. We've been using row count, and we should be using count distincts instead of that. So off of employee ID, let's create a measure called employees. Type count distinct. Employee ID. value format name, decimal 0. Let's do the same in the transaction table. No code change. All right, so now that we did that, we go into here, refresh the browser. Let's change these measures from row count to employees. It'll be the same thing. Ooh, that wasn't right. You selected the wrong measure, but good thing we've corrected it. All right, so we'll call it a day. We just added 2 new tables to the data model, and we now have a much more full data model for us to build data off of. We now have a nice large transaction table that will allow us to do some nice time series. We'll call it a day. In our next session, we're going to try to fill out this dashboard with a home page. Have a good day.